Okay. Good evening, everyone. Really appreciate your time this evening. For anyone that doesn't know me, my name is Nate Parks, Vice President of Program for Special Mix Nebraska. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our call tonight. Joining me from the Special Mix Nebraska team, we have Dave Demian, our Director of Sport and Competition. We have Amanda Goebbels Svensson, our Unified Sports Manager, and we have Dylan Sendgraf, who is our Field Services Manager for the East Central and West Central regions. The purpose of our call tonight is to talk about our spring games, which is coming up here in a couple weeks. It's the first weekend of April. I believe that's the 5th, 6th, and 7th of April, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So what we're going to do tonight basically is provide you, our heads of delegations and coaches information regarding that weekend, and really want to tell you how much we appreciate you guys joining these calls every month. This is our way to help communicate to the field, and we rely so heavily on all of you to help educate our coaches, our families, our athletes, our unified partners, all of our teams. So really thank you guys for your time. We'll try to keep things pretty straightforward tonight, and certainly if you have questions about other things, we'll certainly take time to answer that as well, but the focus will be mostly on spring games tonight. So I'll go ahead and get started. First thing I'd like to do is just provide just a brief overview of what to expect for that weekend. Then I'll send it over to Dave, who's going to go into a bit more detail about competition and schedules. So spring games is our biggest event of the year in terms of total number of participants. Summer games is a little bit bigger, fall games in terms of, multi-sport, multi-day things. But this is the most, number of participants at one competition that we have throughout the year. And it's our first big event of the year. So what we have going on that weekend would be our traditional bowling and basketball. So on Friday morning, we begin with our traditional bowling taking place at two bowling alleys, Sun Valley Lanes and Hollywood Lanes in Lincoln. The entire event is in Lincoln. At Sun Valley, we have 3 squads going on Friday. That will include our ramp bowlers, as well as our doubles competition. At Hollywood, we have all of our team bowling this year, and that is a little bit different than what we've seen in years past, where a lot of times team has been at Sun Valley. It was really just due to the number of teams that entered this year and needing to figure out where our lane space was. So Dave had to move things around a little bit, and I'm sure he can explain that for anyone that has questions. But we have 2 squads at Hollywood, 3 squads going on at Sun Valley. And then Saturday is our basketball competition. We have our 5-on-5, both traditional and unified team competitions taking place at Lincoln Northeast High School. We have our 3-on-3, all of our skills events, as well as our young athletes event taking place at Lincoln North Star High School. We also will do a health screening this year at Lincoln Northeast for Healthy Promotions. That'll take place from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Northeast. And for anybody that's not familiar with Health Promotions, it's really designed to provide advice, guidance, resources, support related to nutrition, healthy lifestyles, physical fitness, things of that nature. So we really want to encourage any athletes that are able to get over to Northeast, or those that are competing at Northeast, to please try to go through that screening. Again, that's between 10 and 2 on that Saturday. And then Sunday, we have our singles bowling taking place at Sun Valley, and we have 2 squads going on at Sun Valley. A couple things I want to mention. So for those of you that want to provide your own volunteer for ramp bowlers on Friday, we really need to know who those individuals are ahead of time. So if you have somebody that, needs to work with a specific athlete, I'd like for you to please email Taylor Hill at our office no later than April 1st, so that we can ensure that we have adequate T-shirts, sizes, and we know where those individuals are assigned, because we will have community volunteers coming in, and we want to make sure that we know where we're putting those folks as well, for those that need a community volunteer to work with the ramp bowlers. So we try to provide one-to-one with ramp volunteers when we can. So we certainly appreciate when you can provide your own volunteer. But if you have someone for specific bowlers, please provide that information to Taylor Hill via email, thill@sony.org, no later than April 1st.
Hey, Nate,
If anyone is, go ahead.
the other thing she wanted to know is what lane they're on, so she can check that off on her volunteer sign up, so she knows not to assign someone that lane. So the lane assignments are already given out. If you have a ramp bowler, you already know what lane they're on to start with. So that's helpful for her. Sorry.
Yeah, so like Dave said, when you email that name of the bowler, just include their lane. It'll just save a step for Taylor and having to look up between all the different bowlers that we have going on. So we appreciate that very much. If anyone is interested in helping out as volunteers at any of the events, you can go to our website, or if you know people that are interested, as they'll go under the volunteer tab, they can see all the different openings that are available throughout the weekend. We will have medical volunteers at each venue. So if an athlete gets injured or just has something going on, an illness, any kind of problem, seek out one of the staff. If you're not sure where the medical volunteers are located, but we'll have medical at each location. We will be selling merchandise at each location for bowling and basketball. This year we have a spring game shirt. We have a headband or kind of a sweatband, a blanket, and a quarter zip, a Specialist Nebraska quarter zip that will also be sold at some other events throughout the year. The young athlete sign up is on our website. So please check that out if you have kids or kids between the ages of 2 to 7. We like all of our young athlete events to be unified. So whether the individual is an athlete or a unified partner, we'd love to have them. That'll take place kind of mid-morning at Lincoln North Star, and Dave will talk about the schedule, like I said. As far as protests and things like that, if you have a protest, what that needs to come directly from the head of delegation or head coach, and that would go to the venue director. And so the venue directors are as follows: Friday at Sun Valley, myself, Nate Parks; Friday at Friday at Hollywood, Dave Demian; Saturday at Lincoln Northeast, myself, Nate Parks; and then at Lincoln North Star, Dave Demian; and then Sunday at Sun Valley, Dylan Sengraf and Amanda Gubel Svensson. Those will be the venue directors at each location. Okay, so that needs to come directly from the head of delegation or head coach. And I really think it's important that we really focus this year on sportsmanship. I think that we ran into a few challenges last year during basketball. And so I'm really wanting us to be proactive as staff, as coaches, as volunteers and leaders of organization to ensure that we have good communication, everybody understands expectations, and Amanda's going to talk in a little bit about some of the things we see typically during unified sports in particular. But we want to have fun. I'm expecting a great weekend. We'll have water donated from Coca-Cola at the basketball venues for anyone that would need it. But we're very excited and really ready to get it going. So I'll turn it over to Dave and let him go into a few more details about competition and schedules.
All right, so if you haven't checked on the website, we have all of the bowling schedules up. They've been up for about maybe a week and a half now. And so that would include both venues, both Friday and Sunday. It's got times you start. There's a cover sheet. Please read the whole cover sheet because it also talks about when the bowling alleys want you to show up. I know some of us still show up pretty early. They don't have staff there to open the doors yet. So your people will be standing outside waiting to get in. It's about an hour before you're supposed to bowl is when you should get in there. But again, I put the times right on the front there. I've heard back from a lot of coaches. I think we've handled all the changes that need to be made. I will send out one more thing probably a week beforehand with any updates, but right now bowling is set to go. And then as of probably lunch today, we have the schedules up for the 5-on-5 traditional and unified, as well as team skills and 3-on-3. So those went up. We don't have the brackets done yet, the 3-team, the 4-team bracket, but you can see the overall master schedule and kind of see when you're playing and who you're playing. It's color coded. It's just with so many teams, I just pick a division and a color. And so just look, if you find your color, those are the teams in your division. That's why there's different colors on there. They don't necessarily mean anything except that those are all the teams in your division. And I try not to have colors similar on courts next to each other, just so it kind of pops out visually. And that's for all of them. What else about that? Like I said, we will have the brackets up and the heat sheets up later this week. We are just now working on that, but the main thing is get the schedule out first. So you guys can take a look at that. Having said that, the reason I did that is because we're going to, hopefully this week, I need to, in the middle of this week, get out our meal sign up. So you know what time your bowlers bowl, you know where they're at, you know when your basketball players are playing and where they're at. I'm just waiting to hear back from one more alley. And then once we hear back from them, we can post that. But you guys should already kind of know your numbers once that comes out because you've seen the schedule already on top. And we'll probably give you to the end of next week to return that back to us. Okay, meals. Little insight as to how teams were divisioned. So all right, some people ask if they finished in fourth place, do they still get to go to state for basketball? Yep. So for basketball, we do not eliminate anybody that finishes out of the top three. We didn't want to start quoting the East versus the West because of the different sizes. So we're letting everyone go, but you got to play in a regional qualifier to make it to state. Part of it is just so we can see if your qualifying scores match up with how your team plays, who you play against, and then we use those numbers of competition, how many points you scored, how many you gave up, things like that, were you accurately divisioned. And now that we're getting to a bigger pool, it's easier to put you into that correct division. So we use the original qualifying score, we use the scores from your games, we use who'd you play against, and all that information. And then once that's all done, then we go back and we look at ages, if we can. Height, I'm sorry, it's basketball. We can't do anything about that. I know you have some big people out there, and that's always a complaint. Well, look how tall they are. We don't ask for height on the registration, and I don't know if we could do anything about that anyway. But we do know ages, so we we kind of looked it over after we divisioned. We re-divisioned again and tried to get more of a youth group kind of and younger athletes, high schoolers, middle schoolers, things like that, and then we have an adult kind of section also. So all those factors went into how we came up with who you're playing, if all that makes sense. Okay. And I'll just go into, hold on. Lay down. So for 5-on-5, we're gonna do the 4 6-minute quarters like we have done traditionally in the past. That may change next year. We're going to look into seeing how that still works with our volunteers and if that works for everybody. But we're going to stick with that this year. As far as back-to-back games on the schedule, I was able to make sure that none of the 5-on-5 or unified 5-on-5 have back-to-back games. I was able to move everything around. As far as 3-on-3, I think I have one game I have a back-to-back, and team skills I have one game that's a back-to-back. So not too bad. I'm happy with that. But as you start plugging in all those pieces for the puzzle towards the end, you have really no choice but to probably get one or two of those. Okay. Just some quick things I want to go back and talk, if I'm going to jump away from spring games for just a second, if that's all right, Nate, to talk about summer games. This week, we will also have registration up for volleyball and gymnastics. Those are the only two sports that aren't going to have a qualifier because we'll take it from track and swimming already. So we'll already have those times and everything. So those will be up this week if you have any teams that are interested in volleyball or gymnastics. Now that we're done with 2 of our 4 swimming competitions, if we miss this somehow or there's an athlete that needs an outside lane, just shoot me an email so I can start doing that now so we don't have to move them around later on if they need the lane 1 or lane 8. I always like to know that. I know you sent it to the regional directors, and sometimes it just doesn't transfer over when I pull people back into the meet. And then swimming results are posted from the East and the East Central. Those are already up on the website. And then I did have some questions on the swim meet sheets. So even though it was Jane Elam's competition, I helped put together the meet sheet, and I was using red dots on the meet sheets as a reminder to myself to who has the races that are close to each other, so they don't go back to awards, they go right into staging again. That was more for my stagers, but I had some people worrying what that meant, why there are marks on there when I sent that out. So anytime you see something like that, it's really just a reminder that to take a look that, hey, your athlete's probably going to be right back into staging for their next event. I think that's all I have for spring games and that quick little summer games update.
Okay, next, Amanda, can you go ahead and talk a little bit about unified basketball?
Yeah, so at Unified Basketball this year, I'll kind of be monitoring the games, I guess, just kind of keeping an eye on, if there's any player domination, or anything like that going on. I obviously won't be able to watch 100% of every single game, but I'm gonna watch what I can. So if there's any issues, just look for me, and I'll be able to help you out. With Unified, not just basketball, but anything. We really do want to see that 50-50 ratio, not just in numbers, but participation on the court or field as well. And we kind of see that partner domination a couple different ways. First is kind of right off the bat, partners are dominating. And then the other is where, both teams might start off with good intentions, and one team starts kind of take off, start winning by a big margin, and then the other team just kind of lets their players or their partners loose. And they kind of take over. So we don't want to see either of those. We want to see both athletes and partners taking shots, passing the ball, taking the ball up, inbounding, all of that stuff. We don't want to see the flip side of it, partners just rebounding, handing to an athlete, rebounding, handing it to an athlete. If they've got an open shot, take it. That's really what Unified is about. So that's kind of what we want to push, is that good 50-50 ratio. For anyone that hasn't taken the NHFS training, I will drop the link in the chat. It is a free course. Doesn't take too terribly long, but it's just a good reminder, even if you haven't, or if you have taken it, just about what Unified is, kind of gives you some tips and tricks on coaching Unified, and what that's all about. So any questions about anything Unified, partner dominance, any of that good stuff? Okay. All right.
Great.
Nate, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah, I'll get to that here in a second. I
Okay.
want to just echo Amanda's sentiments a little bit too on unified. So, I would really tell any unified basketball, any unified sports coach that if you have not taken that training, you need to do so. It really is a great course. It's actually the most taken training and on the NFHS website of all the sports that they do, which are open to youth and high school coaches across the country. So it is something that is very valuable. I know some of you have taken it, but if you haven't, we really want you to. It is something that we expect, and it'll really help put things in perspective. But if you have any questions related to Unified, go see Amanda. She'll be out and about trying to watch as many games as possible, being a support. And then remember, we just want to have a great time. And our officials, I want to mention a little bit too about our basketball officials. We do have trained certified officials for our 5-on-5 competition. Many of them are returning, have done other events for us in the past. It's not their job to police the unified component or player dominance. That's really something that is responsibility of us. But certainly it doesn't mean that they might not point something out or say something. And some of you that are very experienced, we appreciate too when you can help mentor other coaches as well, maybe some that are new, some of our younger teams and people that aren't as experienced with our competition as well. And I get it. When it comes to competition, people want to win. Our athletes are no different than anyone else. And, like Amanda said, sometimes we start off with the best of intentions and then the game just kind of goes in a direction that, you don't want it to. And we're trying to just fight back. But, what we really don't want to see is, a unified partner just handing the ball to the athlete constantly, not really playing. We don't want to see that. And we don't want to see unified partners just dominating the game, doing everything up and down the court. In sports like basketball, soccer, it's a little harder to execute unified than say like flag football, where you have specific rules on who can throw the ball to who and things like that. So it just takes time, it takes experience. So we appreciate everybody, putting their focus on that. And I'll tell you that, we have more unified teams than we have traditional teams now. We have had that actually for a number of years. And so this is the direction that you see a lot of our younger participants going, because that's what they grow up with in school. That's what they see. So it's real important that we continue to get better with it from year to year. And that's why we have Amanda's position. That's why Amanda will be focusing on that at the game. So thank you guys for that. So we have a question in the chat, like Amanda said here. So let me pull that up here. Do we need to provide ramp for all of our ramp bowlers? Yes, you do. We typically will not have the athletes share ramps. We try to put one athlete per lane just to keep things continuously moving. That's why those ramp squads go fairly quickly. Now, the bowling alleys do have a number of ramps that you can use. They are first come, first serve. And I have seen teams lend ramps to other teams, and so those are things that we can look at. If you're really worried about whether or not you have enough, reach out to us and we'll kind of talk with other coaches as well and see. But it is expected for people to provide their own ramps. So I guess now, unless Dave, you have anything else you want to touch on, we can open it up to questions.
Real quick, speaking of ramps, we had received an email last week. I think, was it Mike? Maybe someone sent us that someone was selling ramps. I don't remember the email, but I can go back and look, and we can look at sending
It
that
came
out.
from John Lacido, and Jessica sent it out to all the heads of delegation. So
Okay, perfect.
yeah, so there was an email like Dave mentioned that we found out about a new potential spot where you can get ramps if you need some, so that you just looked in your email. Jessica Devney would have sent that information out last week.
And then Marla, I called you back today. We can talk after this meeting's over if you want. About, I don't know what the issue is, but we'll handle it after this is over, all right? Okay.
Okay, yeah, any questions about spring games or really anything that's going on in this year? I mean, certainly we're here to answer them, so fire away, anyone.
Silence is good. We'll give you
Yeah.
another 30 seconds and yes, Unified is 4 6-minute quarters also. Will there be a dance? Not at spring games, we do not, but summer games we will have that.
Nick will have to keep practicing his air guitar for summer games, some spring games.
I'll mention too that during the 5-on-5 basketball, like Dave said, it is 4 6-minute quarters. The clock does stop on any dead ball the last minute of the second and fourth quarters.
3-on-3 is 2 halves.
Yeah, we're doing the 2 halves. So it'll be a 20-minute total, but 2 halves, 2 10-minute halves.
Is the swimming competition at Elkhorn on Thursday again, like it has been?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, summer game
as far as-
schedule is the same as it was this past year.
I had a
Go.
question about officiating at 3-on-3. I know I wasn't there last year, but apparently there was an athlete that was fouling our kids pretty intensely, and the refs weren't calling very much. And it finally got to the point where one of my athletes just kind of went off the handle and finally shoved him because he got so tired of being hammered all the time. And my parents had asked me afterwards about why aren't they calling fouls? If this is basketball, why aren't fouls being called? So I said, well, I'll delve into that next time.
Officially delved into. I will make sure I talk to my officials about that at my venue, and we'll try and nip that in the bud. Thanks, Barb.
Yeah. And then I told my coaches too, I said, if you're getting hammered by one athlete and it's upsetting our kids, and I don't want my kids to go off the handle and push back like what happened. And then the parent gets upset with that kid, their child, for doing that. And then the other parents say, no, it's okay because that kid deserved it. And then it all snowballs. And so it's like, you got to call fouls, especially hard fouls, apparently. But I just wanted to bring that out. That kind of upset a lot of my parents last year, and our athletes too. So.
Yep. Okay, I will talk to them and make sure we're looking out for that. Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll mention too, Barb, when it comes to the officials, we do our best to try to train them. You know, we have an officials meeting, we send them information ahead of time. We ask that they call the game just like they would any other game. They're calling fouls, they're calling traveling, they're calling double dribble. I think sometimes what happens, you know, sometimes the refs will start to change what we're expecting them based on the skill level that they observe. Sometimes
Right.
they get into it and they think, oh, this is so great. This is so much fun. I don't want to call a foul on this guy, or I don't want to call traveling on this guy. And so we do our best early in the day to go around and check in with the officials. We talk to them when it's over. We ask them to continue to come back so they can continue to learn. And we do have a number of officials that are returning from event to event, you know, and so hopefully that will continue to improve. You know, we expect a lot of them, we pay them, so we want them to do this right. And this is a competition, this is an official event, so they need to be calling fouls, they need to be, you know, executing the rules of the game. So we'll continue to do our best to make sure of that.
Yeah, and I know you guys do the best you can, and I also told my coaches, if it gets out of hand, you know, send somebody to go get the venue director so that they can come over and watch the game and help solve the situation.
Yeah,
help,
absolutely.
You know, and help with the situation that's going on as well. So yeah, I understand, and I appreciate all the work you guys do. And but I just don't want to repeat from last year, according to what my parents and kids were saying. So, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that feedback. Question about 2 timeouts per half for 5-on-5. Yes, you get 2 timeouts for traditional and unified per half. They do not carry over. And then we have a question here. Was anything said about the bocce location? Dave, do you want to address bocce?
The bocce location is still up in the air, just based on how hot it was indoors last year at the venue we used. So we were looking to move it outdoors at that same venue, but generally they have that outdoor turf booked. So bocce is still up in the air, unfortunately. It's about the last venue I have not gotten, but we're looking still at that. I apologize, it has not gotten done yet, but yeah, it will.
And just so everyone knows, we've explored a number of options for bocce. We've done our best to try to find an indoor facility that meets all of our needs. It's a real challenge. So, you know, we're looking at some outdoor turf options at this point, and we would need to set up a number of tents and things of that nature. So once that's finalized, we'll be sure to communicate it. But it will be in the Omaha area on Saturday of fall games. We will have our softball competition at that same location in Papillion. Tennis will still be in Lincoln at Woods Tennis Center, and golf will still be in Lincoln at Mahoney Golf Course on Sunday. So still kind of half and half with fall games being in Omaha and Lincoln. And it's just due to the challenges we're getting with finding a suitable bocce venue. Okay, so Mike just mentioned in the chat, Big Iron Gym is having a meet July 29th and 28th if anyone is interested. Looks like the lifters will be on Sunday that weekend. So Big Iron Gym is where we've held our powerlifting competition the past 2 years. It's near 135th and Giles Road in Omaha. So if anybody is interested, you know, just contact me. I'll connect you with Mike Sissel, who's the coach of the Big Iron team and one of our lead volunteers for powerlifting, and we can make sure to get those individuals the opportunity to compete at that event. 27th and 28th of July, just to clarify. Thanks, Mike. All right, any other questions about what's going on this year? Well, we appreciate your time. We'll hang around for a couple more minutes. If anybody has anything, you know, feel free or send us an email if anything comes up. But again, I just want to thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate you doing these calls month after month. It really helps us so we can get communication out to all of our families, all of our athletes, you know, all of our volunteers, everyone that's a part of our program. We're very excited for spring games. Look forward to seeing everyone, just having a great weekend, handing out a lot of awards. And just seeing a lot of smiles on everyone's faces. So thank you guys so much for what you do. We appreciate it. So feel free to end your call if you don't have any questions. But like I said, we'll hang around for a minute or two if anybody does.
Hey Nate, do you
Yes.
know anything about that, how that pickleball unified thing is going at UNO?
Yeah, Amanda can talk to that. I think what we're seeing so far is they're kind of doing more skills training, Amanda, don't you think? Just
Yeah.
getting the athletes acquainted to the game. But
Yep.
we're really hoping to see it grow. You know, pickleball is a new sport for Special Olympics and something that we're open to offering in the future if the participation interest is there.
Well, we are offering it as part of Tennis Buddies. But I guess, you know, we were going to try to brainstorm some ideas about offering it as a separate day from our tennis. Right now, we've kind of combined it with because at the MAC they have pickleball courts already lined, and that's where we practice. So you know, I don't know how much interest you got from outside of tennis players.
We did a survey last year in the summer. We sent out to gauge interest in pickleball, cornhole, and dance as a sport, and we had very little come back for pickleball. Everybody that responded that was interested in something new responded for cornhole. Certainly, we can send out a survey again this year to see who might be interested in playing. And we're, like I said, we're very open to adding it as an official sport and creating a competition. We just want to ensure that the participation is there. And basically our practice moving forward, if we add a sport, we want to ensure that we have at least 50 participants for that sport to become an official sport for us, if that makes sense. Now, that doesn't mean people can't practice it or they can't do some things on their own, or we can't explore, you know, joining some other organization that has an event, or like what we're doing with UNO with the Unified Intramurals. We can look at things like that. But for it to be, you know, an official Sony competition, we would want to see at least 50 people to add it.
Okay, so we'll just continue to, it's just a little part of our practice.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at the Cornhusker State games. I'm assuming they offer pickleball, but
Yeah,
that
they
might
do.
be an opportunity to compete. We have a number of athletes competing in bowling and powerlifting, and I'm sure they would be open to offering pickleball to our athletes. So that's something we can look into if that's of interest.
Okay, with the UNO thing, we had age limitations.
Mhm.
But we do not have any age limitations otherwise.
The Unified Intramurals with the college level, the age limit is 18 to 35, and that's across all of North America. And I understand for those that are 36 and older, that would be tough. You know, and it's just designed for, even though you don't have a lot of, you know, on-campus college students that are, you know, in their 30s, that's what the age range is. And so it's designed to try to put athletes and partners that are of similar age and similar ability together. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't find a partner to offer up a different pickleball league for athletes that are a little bit older. You know, we actually are starting a partnership with Omaha Parks and Rec, and we'll talk about this a little later when we iron out a few more details, but we're going to be offering up a cornhole league this summer, and we're looking at doing a couple of young athletes things with them. And I think we could talk to them as well about pickleball, you know, once we would get that partnership really going. So, you know, I think there are community partners out there across the state that we can look at doing things with when the interest is there. If it's not quite to the level that we could add it as a competition
Yeah.
or something like that.
Most of them, I think I only have about 5 of our athletes that don't want to do it. The rest of them all we're teaching the beginning skills in that so that they can begin playing. So
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to see it grow.
I think for UNO, I think there might be one that is not with Tennis Buddies. So it was mostly your people that came over. So
yeah, and there
Yeah.
were a lot more interested, but they're older than 35. Yeah, there were several others interested.
How many total people do you have, Nancy, that would want to play pickleball if we could find a way to offer up some sort of
We
league
have
play or?
We have about 65 athletes now. I'm guessing 5 of them don't want to play. I mean, I don't have 100%, participation even within that 65, but we've only had the ones that are playing now. We've only had a couple that said no, they don't want to play. But if we offered it separate from our day that we're playing tennis, because it is very hard to switch from playing a tennis game to playing pickleball in the same day or the same hour, couple hours. That is very hard because of the length of the paddle and the bounce of the ball is very different. But if we could offer it on a separate day, we may find that we would have a good participation, because most of them have been very excited about it, and even families are like, can we learn with them so we can all play. So I think there's an avenue open there. I just don't know, we're just trying to make it through with the tennis and then offering pickleball as a little side
Sure.
thing. But most of
Yeah.
them, we're offering our practices now for the whole 2 hours. If you want to stay the 2 hours, 1 hour you'll play tennis, 1 hour you'll play pickleball. And we have a great number of athletes that are doing that.
That's great. I think, why don't we set up a separate call, maybe you and I and Dave, and maybe we can also get representation from the Lincoln Tennis Buddies and the Fremont team, and really just see among our tennis players, first and foremost, who is interested in pickleball, what's maybe the skill level, and then we can kind of put our heads together to figure out the best way to give those guys an opportunity to compete. Because like I said, we're very open to it. We just need to make sure that we do it the right way.
Right.
You know,
And
'cause
we're
when
not at the competing level. We're at the let's learn how to play, and they're really
Sure.
enjoying it. And then be able to, do more play than clinic and learn, how the ball bounces, how to get it over, what the scoring is and stuff like that.
Well, we definitely want what we're doing at UNO to continue, and I know Amanda will meet with their staff and kind of reassess things when they're done with this spring season. And we'd love to do it at the other colleges that we're partnering with for intramurals if there was interest across the state. But I think, like I said, why don't we'll come up with another time. Let's talk about that,
Okay,
and we can
that's
all
great.
do some brainstorming and kind of figure out what's the best way to make pickleball happen. I think it would be fun.
I don't know if any of the others are offering it or, have branched out into that at all. I don't know whether Lincoln or Fremont or anybody has added that.
Yeah, I'd be surprised, but I really don't know for sure.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, Marla, did you have any questions for us? You're muted.
I just had a question for Dave, and maybe I can figure it out by looking at the schedule now. I'm trying to save myself $500 and trying to figure out, last year it worked great. I could drive a bus to Lincoln North Star, and then they would go on over to the next venue for the Unified. And that way I only had to provide one transportation. In past years, I've had to have transportation for both locations, and that's about $500 a pop for each one of them. So I just kind of wanted your opinion, if it's going to work that way. If not, I got to book another van.
Give me 2 seconds here, because I have a schedule in front of me here.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the first games at Northeast, which is the 9:30 game. I don't see you scheduled anywhere on that. And then I didn't schedule you the second game either at 10:15, so that would mean Cardinals Unified, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, so your first game's like 11:45, so at one venue, so you could definitely drop all off at the 3-on-3, make it back in time for your first game.
Okay, good. I'm all for saving money.
So I will double check this tomorrow when I'm in the office. I can kind of spread some things out. I'll make a note of it, but I think you can probably do North Star first and then head over to Northeast.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that's probably good then, Marla, unless you got anything else. You're our last coach on the call.
Well, I had an idea and I was gonna send you this in an email. You know, the unified soccer game in Omaha that last one is the same weekend as fall games.
Yes.
Could we have it? I mean, because I will have athletes staying over to golf. Can we have it so they can go to the game and watch the game on Saturday night?
You mean the athletes that aren't playing, the other athletes that are part
Correct.
of the,
Right.
I mean, certainly they can. I don't know if we'll be able to get free tickets for everyone else, but we'll certainly look at that.
Okay.
How many are we talking about, Marla? How many athletes, just roughly?
I probably have 15, 20. that
It's
would
just a
stay.
good idea to see if we're gonna ask for a block of 15 as opposed to 80 or something like that, so.
I think it'd be kind of fun for them to get to see their teammates playing soccer. So,
No, I agree. It actually would be great for everybody who's here for fall games to go and watch
Yeah.
that game. You know, I think we'll have to talk with Union Omaha. We're dealing with all new people there now. The GM is new, all the staff that we'd be talking to about things like tickets, marketing, they're all new. So we're not really sure, you know, what to expect. We need to meet with the GM because I know she mentioned when Amanda and I, when we first met her, she mentioned that she may have a sponsor or two for the team this year. So maybe we could talk about the sponsors purchasing tickets for athletes, or at least giving us a group rate or something. If we get, you know, X amount of people from all of our other athletes in town that weekend, it would be great for people to go and watch that. So we'll look at that. We'll see what we can do.
okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Marla. Have a great week. Thank you guys for joining tonight, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Ready.